One of the great challenges we have as people of faith is living it the way it should be lived, essentially being like Jesus. We all fail at that at different times, and when the pressure is turned up in our lives, it can reveal the ugliness in our souls. And then when you live a public life, well, everyone gets to see it. Today, Inside Edition national correspondent Megan Alexander joins me to talk about the challenges and the joys of living faith in the spotlight. Megan, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Cheryl.
You know, you think about that. We all have bad days where we're not exactly representing Christ well.
Sure.
And then when you're in the spotlight and you have all that extra pressure, you've said you're a Christian and everyone's kind of, okay, Megan, let's see how you do it.
Sure.
How do you deal with that pressure?
You know, I really believe that it is the small moments. For me, it has not been a big moment. It's been the conversation over coffee when you're working on a script or a story, behind the scenes, things that you won't see on television, you know, interviews where maybe an exchange took place afterwards. Something that I can just share is, you know, I had a conversation once when the whole Tiger Woods scandal was going down and his marriage is falling apart and all media was covering that. You know, we were interviewing a lot of these women, these mistresses that were involved in his life. And I had an interview with one gal that was in the porn industry. And when the camera was turned off and the lights were turned off, I just couldn't shake hands with her and say, nice to chat with you, have a nice day. And so, you know, crews are gone, television's gone, and I just wrote down on a piece of paper, authenticrelationships.org, which is an organization to help people getting out of that industry. I just slipped it to her and I said, hey, you're a beautiful girl. There are other options for you. I just feel called to give you this. You're never going to see that on television, but there are things going on behind the scenes that I just want to encourage people are indeed happening. There are believers involved in the industry, and we're just trying to be a light, and it's not always going to be dramatic and showy, but I feel like I need to talk about it because people get discouraged and think that, you know, the Lord's not very present in Hollywood or in entertainment. He is. Sometimes it's a soft whisper.
And you're a big advocate that Christians need to have a seat at the table.
Yes.
Tell me about that, because, you know, a lot of times you can just pull yourself away and say, oh, I don't like what's happening in media.
Sure. Well, you know, when I got into this industry, I had a family member say to me, why on earth would you want to get involved in entertainment and media? That's Satan's playground. Well, for some of us, isn't that exactly where we should be then, shining a light in the darkness? You know, for me, I felt called, and I think that you need to get with the Lord and find out what your calling is in life. And an important moment for me came in high school when we were all talking about what we want to be when we grow up. And a friend of mine, his father is a pastor, and he asked me, Megan, what do you want to be one day? And I sort of apologized. I said, I think I want to be a news reporter or maybe work in entertainment. I know it's not a doctor. I know it's not a pastor. And the Reverend Shields is his name. He said to me something I remember as if he said it yesterday. Megan, every job is a ministry. Every person is a minister.
Yes.
And that can be in media.
Absolutely.
So that's what I'm doing. I want to encourage Christians, don't just complain about it. Be a part of the solution. Take your seat at the table.
And sometimes that's harder because it's easier to work with everyone maybe who agrees with you.
Yeah.
To work with people who don't agree with you, have alternate viewpoints, that actually, I think, grows us in our faith. Like, you have to cling tightly to it.
And I really appreciate working with people from all different backgrounds, all different insights, all different faiths. Really enjoy that, and that's where God has called me, and being respectful and knowing that at the end of the day that those are my coworkers. You know, I didn't really talk about my faith when I first got to Inside Edition. I just wanted to be known for good work. I think we need to do excellent work and deliver. I mean,
yes,
that's important. And then later, those conversations have come about. But I think a lot of people have said to me, did it change when you started talking about your faith? I don't think it did, and I think it's because they knew, that's just Megan. At the end of the day, she'll still deliver with me. She'll make deadline. She's my coworker. I think that's important to build the trust and relationships and the respect first.
I think about, you know, you're working in the entertainment business, and entertainment news is kind of the hottest thing. It's become almost replacing news, right?
Yeah.
Everybody wants to know. But it has its kind of, sometimes it's sleazy side or shallow side, you know, and you have to be in the midst of that. So how do you balance out your faith in the middle of having to talk to somebody who's in the porn industry, or maybe stories you don't want to cover?
Sure. Well, there have been plenty of times when I came home at night and I complained to my husband and I said, I don't want to do this interview tomorrow. Oh my gosh, this is what I have to do. And he said to me, Megan, what about if that's exactly where God wants you to be? And I was doubting the Lord. I was doubting he put me where I was supposed to be. So people need to get with the Lord on that and decide if, you know, this is where you're supposed to be. I realize for some people that wouldn't be a good fit. But that's exactly where I'm supposed to be. And number one, I need to show up and do a good job. At the end of the day, my boss hired me to be a good reporter. So do excellent work and then just be available in the moment.
And I think too, you know, you can't back away from doing your job.
Right.
Whatever you're signed up for, unless it's immoral or illegal, you know, you have to do it. You have to report on things that
Absolutely.
don't align with your personal views. Every journalist does.
And life is messy. People are messy. I mean, it very much is. That's what life is all about. I can't judge anybody. I'm messy too. You know, I think sometimes we get worried about, oh gosh, I shouldn't be associating with these folks. You guys have said it on this program very well. Look at Jesus and who he hung out with. And then I think, end of story right there.
Exactly. And you know, a lot of people, we have an attitude sometimes as Christians about the media that they hate us. All of the media hates us and we'll never get a fair shake. So you are on the inside now of the media. Do they hate us?
No, I really believe at the end of the day that a lot of people that are involved in entertainment and media, faith is just not a part of their life. Whether because of the hustle and hard work involved, church has just been pushed away and it's something that they stop doing, or it's just not something that's important to them. That's just the way that it is. And I share stories in the book where just being in the room when a decision is made and being able to raise my hand and say, hey, I have an idea about this. And one time I threw out the idea of putting a pastor on television on a secular show. Just being in the room and being a part of the mix in the conversation, that's really important. And if Christians aren't there, well, then it won't be represented because it's just not an important part of it.
And I love that story because that was Max Lucado. It was your early days on a daily talk show.
Yeah.
So, and they said no initially, right?
Yeah.
And tell me how that rolled out then, because that's a great story.
Yeah, so I was new on the job as a reporter on this morning talk show in San Antonio, Texas, and we were just talking about different ideas for the show. And there's a very popular segment with a local psychic where people would call in and want to talk to their dead relatives and so forth. Very popular. Well, I'm the new reporter. I'm watching this whole thing go down, and I said to my boss afterwards, one of the producers, what about if we did this with a local pastor? You know, Max Lucado lives just up the street. And in the room, they all said, no, I don't want to do that. I don't think that'd be popular with our viewers. Who's Max Lucado? Just wasn't a part of their life and their rhythm. Went away. A couple weeks down the road, we had a last-minute cancellation, and I said, hey, what about Max Lucado? I think we should give this a try. Begrudgingly, they agreed to it. I got to tell you, Cheryl, the next day when the ratings came in, that was one of the most popular shows we had ever had. Viewers tuned in, they loved it, and that boss that said, no, I don't think that'll work, said, that works, let's book him again. So be in the room and just present an idea.
Ratings are king, and that takes us right back to your point about we need to have a seat at the table. I think in education, in media, in every part of life, Christians need to be there. In our country in particular, it's kind of like, just leave your faith at home, you know, don't get involved. And I think, you know, we don't need to push it in people's faces, like you said. We need to do a good work, but we need to have a voice. Sure. We need to be part of the conversation.
My heart is for these young people that send me emails and say, one pastor in particular, he wrote to me and he said, Megan, I have a church full of young, ambitious women of faith. They have big career goals and dreams. They're worried they're going to need to compromise their faith to get that job. I don't have a whole lot of people to point them to that are navigating this, but I know of you. Will you come speak to them? And I said, I'd love to come speak to them. I'll take it a step further. I'll write this book. I don't have all the answers, but I'm on this journey too, and we need to talk about it. We need to talk about it and support each other. And I gathered a lot of folks that have some great advice about how they're navigating their faith in this world. It is possible.
Your book is Faith in the Spotlight, Thriving in Your Career While Staying True to Your Beliefs. There are some great things. And you know, staying true to your beliefs, there's been times that you've actually had to say no. So you got to discern that, right? So tell me about how you know when to say no and when to say yes.
Sure. Well, I took a class in college, a leadership class that encouraged us to write a mission statement, just a short little mission statement. Who are you? What do you believe in? What are your black and whites, your absolutes? And then where can you compromise and be flexible? I never thought writing that down on a note card is something that I would take with me later into life, but it's very true. So when I'm auditioning for a part, you know, as an actress, okay, is this in line with my beliefs and my faith? And I had to say no to a part once on a really cool show that's in prime time right now because it just didn't line up with what I believe in. But I want to encourage people, other parts still kept coming in. I'm still auditioning. If you're meant to work in this industry, there are opportunities for you. Stay true to who you are, though, at the end of the day. I want my family to always be able to watch the parts that I do in the projects I'm involved in. That's important to me. Decide what's important to you and your faith.
And what's great about that story is you actually lost your agent through that process, but then you got another agent who understands you and gets you the parts that fit with your values. So sometimes there's a price, but ultimately, I think God blesses it and he rewards us.
And you know what's funny is that agent actually just contacted me the other day, the one that I thought I lost, and he said, maybe we can still work together again. So you never know how God is going to work through your life and what you're supposed to do. That was after the book was published.
I think this industry is small, and many industries are. It's about living with integrity, respecting people, treating people with class, and things come around again. I've seen it as well.
And at the end of the day, who are we performing for? An audience of one. all that matters is up there.
Absolutely. I had so many more questions I want to ask you, but we're out of time. Megan, thank you so much for just sharing your wisdom. There's so much unpacked in this book. People have to get a copy. Where can they buy it?
Amazon, Barnes & Noble, bookstores.
Faith in the Spotlight. Megan Alexander, thank you so much.
Thanks, Cheryl.